Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast, coming at you live on a Thursday. We're recording on Tuesday. Have carry over of our storylines for teams that didn't make the postseason. Going to dive into a playoff preview along with a pick'em, Drew locks, and talk Sony Open.
Ooh.
Yes. Before we do though, Gel, QOTD.
Welcome.
Describe to me your perfect breakfast.
All right. And this doesn't matter. Like, I can just keep eating. It doesn't.
You can keep eating. Yeah. Like, what is all on your like perfect breakfast?
Great biscuits and gravy. That's like an absolute lock. That's maybe my favorite breakfast
Big
food.
Time.
I prefer a veggie omelet, like way over, like one of the meat lovers omelets. So I'll go veggie omelet with broccoli, spinach, onion, green pepper, maybe maybe a little pickled jalapeno in there. That's always amazing. God, breakfast food is amazing. French toast on sourdough, that always hits the spot. Pancakes and waffles, I think I generally stay away from just because they're a little bit too filling, but
yeah,
I always get a craving for, or maybe not always, but every once in a while for like a supery, buttery pancake stack. So that happens every once in a while, but no, I mean, biscuits and gravy, that's the goat breakfast food in my opinion. And then a nice veggie omelet's good. And then, throw a fruit cup in there to help kill a little bit of the sodium intake that I just took down.
What are you washing it down with?
Oh, it's got to be a bloody.
Oh, nice. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Okay. Add a side of bloody onto mine. Cup of black coffee for sure. Gotta have coffee.
Yeah. Good call.
Cup of pineapple. Love me some pineapple.
Right.
So that, and yes, biscuits and gravy is written down. Extra biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
Love that. And I'll stick with your veggie omelet. Throw some bacon in it though. I love all the vegetables. There's so much more flavor, and the bacon gives it a nice flavor, but it's not super hearty and just like you feel gross afterwards. So.
Yeah, I'd go either sausage or bacon in there. I think, give it a little something, and a side of salsa.
Okay.
Just to, if I've for the bites that I want some of that action. And do you go Swiss? Do you go cheddar here?
Ooh.
Do you go what kind of cheese action are we talking?
Maybe some pepper jack.
Ooh,
little bite to it.
Right. Peak time. I love it.
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm so ready for dinner now.
I don't usually have these at all because not a lot of places have them, but give me like a strawberry crepe. I love crepes.
I had the best crepes when I was, shocker, in France.
Nice.
I had one, I think it was one breakfast one. It was like, I think it was like a strawberry banana crepe. And then I had a smoked salmon and spinach crepe, which that one, like, they both just kicked ass. But of course in Paris. So, it was fire.
The Mecca of crepes.
It was so awesome. Yes, the home of crepes.
Oh, all right. So let's go take a quick intermission, Gel, and have some breakfast. And we'll be back.
God.
We'll be back while you listen to our social plugs. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, shocker, type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar. We will pop up. Black and yellow logo, subscribe, click the bell. That way, our live episodes drop. Got that chat going. You can ask us any questions there. Otherwise, you can find us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports, at DasGel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Hit us up with any questions, comments there. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of your written review, and we will send you some swag. All right, Gel, we ran out of time for you to go last time, so I want to make sure you get first crack at this. Talking storylines that you're watching for this offseason for some of the non-playoff teams. What's one of the storylines you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the biggest topic of the offseason, at least to me. We talked coaches in the last episode, and now I want to get into quarterbacks. Each of these quarterbacks could possibly look at making a quarterback change, whether that's bringing in a veteran, swapping veterans, bringing in a rookie, whether it could be bringing in just a bridge guy to be a Mitch Trubisky to their Ryan. Why did I say Ryan Pickett? Oh my God, the defensive tackle from the Packers. Each of these teams, I think, they're either going to look at making a change or maybe be forced into making a change. Jets, Raiders, Packers, Bears, number 1 overall pick, Texans, Seahawks, Lions, Vikings, Titans, Ravens, Dolphins, Falcons, Panthers, Saints, Colts, Washington, 49ers, Rams, Giants, Bucks. They obviously all can't make a change, but I mean, I put the Lions in there. I think Goff starts off the year, but who knows? Maybe they end up bringing in a Stroud, Will Levis to sit behind Jared Goff. The Niners, I don't think they bring in a quarterback unless it's Brady, but what's that quarterback situation going to be like next year between Brock Purdy, Trey Lance? Rams, do they move off of Stafford? Giants, I mean, are they really going to give Daniel Jones an extension? I think they probably go franchise tag route, but that's even a little bit steep to pay Daniel Jones, in my opinion. The Bucks, Brady's good as gone. I mean, there's no way he comes back. And Kyle Trask, as we saw the other during week 18, ain't the guy. Colts don't have a quarterback. Titans, are they done with Tannehill? Do they move on to Malik Willis? Malik Willis looked like shit this past season. So
yeah, there's a reason that Josh Dobbs was playing over him down the stretch when they were fighting for a division.
I put Ravens and Dolphins next to each other because of the scenario I brought up in yesterday's episode of, do the Dolphins try to make a run at Lamar? And I don't know. Again, I don't know how they can do it when you're talking about draft compensation, but if Lamar demands he's out, then what do you do if you're the Ravens? And if you're the Dolphins, can you really rely on Tua? Falcons, Desmond Ridder, he's looked bad all year. Panthers don't have a quarterback. Saints, Andy Dalton started like the entire season. So we know that, and we saw clearly on the field, he wasn't the answer. And if Dalton started all those games, pretty clear that they don't feel that Jameis is the answer either. The Jets need some sort of upgrade. Raiders are already moving off a car. Who knows what's happening in Green Bay? Texans don't have a quarterback. Seahawks, what's the story with Geno? Is he starting next year? And then the Vikings, if they flame out in this first week against the Giants, Kirk Cousins, I get they gave him this extension, but how many runs are you going to give this shot? Or how many shots are you going to give this guy? So I know I just named probably over half the league there. So obviously all these things aren't going to come to fruition, but it's just I don't know. The gears are churning in my head about how there's a possibility with all of these teams that they could move on. We're seeing this quarterback carousel more and more every year, at least as of late. And who's saying that trend is going to stop?
Yeah, no, I mean, I started writing down the teams because I wanted to kind of take a look at it, but you just started naming off way too many. And so probably should have listed the teams you didn't name at all. But yeah, it's
20 teams.
It's going to be very fascinating, and it's going to start right away when the free agency period hits with Jimmy G, Derek Carr, assuming that he gets released from the Raiders. I mean, like you said, what are Tom Brady's intentions to play beyond this year? Does he still want to play? Is he just that was it? He retired quick last offseason, came back and made the playoffs, won the division this year. But I mean, they're not a good team. But yeah, so I think those dominoes obviously are going to have to fall first. And then you've got teams that are sitting in the top of the draft that, all right, Houston, I mean, I think
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston is going to be either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, depending on what happens with that first pick. And we'll see what ends up happening in the draft. I mean, you've got 3, maybe 4 guys right now that rookies that maybe could get some playing time, 2 of which I don't want to see on the field if you're drafting them this year, and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. They need to sit and learn. But CJ Stroud, you could probably plug in. Bryce Young, you can probably plug in. Obviously, the route that you want to go to if you draft a rookie is to have them sit for a little bit and put them in when the time's right, not force them in right away. But yeah, I mean, it's a hot commodity, that quarterback position, and there's not a lot to go around with it. It's a position that elite guys don't hit the market very often, and you have to either kind of scrape by with a veteran that can win you some games, or else you're kind of in trouble. And we've seen that a lot. I mean, me being a Bears fan, I see that almost every season. So.
Rotating door.
Yes. Speaking of Bears, I'll jump into mine, Gel, and they're in a very interesting spot. We talked yesterday about Lovie Smith doing them one last favor and getting them that 1 pick with Houston beating the Colts over the weekend. And Chicago now holds the number 1 pick in the draft. You assume Ryan Poles came out today. He was asking his presser if they're going to be evaluating looking to draft a quarterback in that number 1 spot. And he said it would absolutely take someone that would blow him away in order for them to draft a quarterback. You have to assume with the progress that they saw with Justin Fields, just with his running ability, you get him a couple wide receivers, I think he's going to be fine. I think he did enough this year where the Bears don't have to look at the quarterback position there. And in my opinion, if you're not drafting a quarterback in that 1 spot, you just listed off 20 teams that would be happy to have that number 1 pick and get a quarterback for the future. So obviously it has to be the right package. You're not giving that spot away for free, but I think they should trade out of that 1 spot. I mean, yes, you'd love to have Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, but I think with where they're at in their rebuild process in the organization right now, it would be so much more beneficial to pick up some extra draft picks.
Well, and part of it too is they're not a stud pass rusher away. I mean, we saw that team with Khalil Mack, who was a genuine stud with the Bears, didn't lead to winning enough games still. I mean, you want that stud pass rusher, of course, to be a cornerstone of your team, but the Bears have too many holes. They've got to fill holes with their weapons, with their offensive line. I mean, defensively, it looks like they're 2 secondary guy, the corner and the safety that they took,
Gordon and Brisker,
they look pretty nice. Mm-hmm. So I think that's encouraging. But then their 3rd pick last year, Velus Jones, he was nowhere to be found.
So he had a rushing touchdown week 18.
Cordero Patterson 2.0, mark it down. He's going to figure it out at age like 28, but Cordy P 2.0, Velus Jones, just mark it down. It's going to happen. It's just going to take like 8 years.
No, he's 25. It's happening at age 28.
Well,
it's only 3 years away.
It's not going to happen until he's 31 then. But I think the no-brainer move is for them to trade down, work on getting, maybe you do, or maybe you're able to trade back and get yourself a Smith and Jigba in the middle of the 1st. And or maybe a team like, Carolina, they move up from 9. They're obviously in need of a quarterback. Let me look up Carolina's. This is great podcasting. Because I believe the Carolina Panthers have multiple firsts this year. They would have had to get something from that McCaffrey trade. I mean, granted, that's that's the last pick. Very possibly in the 1st, but
yeah, I think while you're looking that up, Joe, I think for me, I mean, you'd love to absolutely get into a battle between teams, just kind of bidding that up and getting the best package you can if you're the Bears. And I think the best case scenario, which I don't know that it would happen, is you have Houston panic and they fall in love with one of the 2 top quarterbacks and want to get that 1st pick so no one jumps them to grab that quarterback, and the Bears just slide back one spot. You still get that stud defensive guy and maybe pick up another first round pick somewhere along the way or another draft.
What was the franchise that did that to move up one spot to trade up for Trubisky? I forget.
Yeah, slipping my mind, Joe.
Brutal. I mean, it'd be weird to see a Lions Bears swap, but the Lions do have 2 first rounders. I mean, do the Bears let the Lions jump up and get their Bryce Young of the future?
Yeah,
you get the 6th overall and the 18th overall pick. You could get yourself in those spots, probably the best offensive lineman and one of the top receivers, or one of the top O linemen, one of the top receivers with those 2 picks. That's more valuable to you than I think Will Anderson at this point, just given the state of the team. So what a brutal Chase Claypool trade. That's the 32nd overall pick. Yeah. 32nd overall pick that they gave up for Claypool.
At the time, I was not happy about that. And that draft pick is higher than where he was actually picked his rookie year.
3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And he obviously, if he was coming out now with his play the last couple of years, he wouldn't be going there. Definitely
no chance.
Yeah, so that was one that, I mean, you give them credit for trying to take a gamble on a young guy, but that was not the right young guy to take a gamble on. But who knows? Maybe they ship somebody out, or maybe they trade back and have just 1 first round pick, maybe pick up another one somewhere along the way and you flip that for a more proven wide receiver too, instead of trying to draft one before you should or something too. But that's why I'm looking forward to seeing that storyline play out. And we won't ever hear all of the trade offers or anything like that, but it'd be pretty cool to be a fly on the wall of Ryan Pohl's office the next couple months to hear some of the teams calling.
I mean, how about the thought of Atlanta? Justin Fields, trade him for the number 8 overall pick with Atlanta plus a 2nd or 3rd. You keep that number 1 pick. You get yourself your quarterback of the future. I mean, because that's 2 extra years of that quarterback on their rookie deal. You bring in Bryce Young or Stroud. You can Eberflus. You bring in Ben Johnson. You just start over on that offense. Just poach Ben Johnson from the Lions, start over offensively. And then you also still you trade Fields to Atlanta for that number 8 overall pick. So you can still get, some really, a really high end player, whether that's the top receiver off the board or the one of the top 2 offensive linemen off the board. I mean, I'm just throwing things out here, but I think when you have the number 1 overall pick, you did for a reason. And it's not, there's nothing when you have the number 1 overall pick, there's no way you can say that this coach or this QB is the answer. I mean, granted, the previous management team, including the head coach, including the coaching staff, was, a dumpster fire, but usually, we just were talking about this in the last episode. When a good coach steps in, you see a turnaround. They got less wins this season. I don't know. They lost their last 10 games. That's insane. So I'm not saying that this is likely to happen, but to start off 3-4 and end 3-14, that's not a good reflection on Uberflus, as Middlecoff likes to say. And I don't think it's safe to say you lock in Fields and Eberflus going into next season. If you can, I think there's value out there for Fields, and there's other coaching options out there, offensive coaching options that are out there. Ben Johnson for one.
Follow up to that before we trade topics, Joe. Let's say Justin Fields was a quarterback in this draft class. Where do you think he falls in line?
I probably, I put him after, I guess I probably put him at 3.
You think
maybe
have
2
Young and CJ Stroud in front of him?
Maybe 2 ahead of Stroud. That's tough, but Stroud just Stroud impressed me so much against Georgia, and Fields, I haven't seen enough from him throwing the ball to be able to believe in him. Yes, he's obviously extremely dynamic on the ground, but that can only get you so far. He finished that season through the air very poorly.
Yeah.
So not that I think he can't do it. He was one of the top recruit. He was the number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school for a reason. But what have you seen out of him passing the ball that's encouraging? Nothing really.
Yeah, but I don't know. And again, I mentioned it last week. Maybe it's just me with my orange colored glasses on, Gel, but he doesn't have a ton to throw the ball to. I mean, he had Cole Kmet, and then, like you said, Chase Claypool, Velus Jones.
Mooney got hurt.
So we'll see.
I understand that, but still, I'm not. I'm not saying that this would be what I think they will do. I'm just, playing devil's advocate, I guess, here, and just putting out different scenarios, because you never know what's going to happen with with that ownership group, new management that did not draft Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to consider that too. This GM has no reason to be in love with him.
Yep.
I guess the last piece that I really want to touch on is, I think the Steelers have their guy. I like Kenny Pickett. I think he's it. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be ever a top 6-8 quarterback. There's too many good quarterbacks out there.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of good ones.
Pickett can be like a Dak, healthy Jimmy G, type of guy, maybe a Kirk Cousins type of guy. And if you support that with a really strong running game, they always have a strong defense. They obviously need to fix that O-line, but they've always got solid weapons. He and George Pickens seem to have something. Pat Freiermuth is awesome. Deontay Johnson signed an extension. Najee's only going into his 3rd year. I mean, it already looks like he's going to slow down, so I don't know if he ends up getting his 5th-year option picked up.
A lot of tread on those tires.
I mean, already. Jeez. But hey, what are you going to do when you pick a quarterback or a running back in the, mid-20s or whatever? But I think he's, first off, I don't understand why they even started the season with Trubisky out there. That was asinine. But I really like what I saw on Pickett. It seemed like he really grew, and it sucks that we have to see Miami in there. I really wish, because that was the Steelers' spot.
Yep.
And Miami ended up winning that game 11-6 with their 3rd-string quarterback against the Jets' 3rd-string quarterback. It sucks that that's the game that kept the Steelers out. Not that I'm saying that Pittsburgh would have made any noise. They would have, they still would have been facing the Bills in week 1, or the opening round. So probably an L there, but still much rather see that than freaking Skylar Thompson, if that's who it's going to be. So we'll talk more about that game in a bit, but I like Kenny Pickett. I think that they found their dude, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to say that after his first few weeks when he looked pretty damn shaky.
Yeah, it was very shaky, and you wondered, okay, maybe they do need to go back to Trubisky after those first couple of weeks, as bad as Mitch was. But yeah, he's got a lot of young pieces around him. Speaking of Deontay Johnson, 147 targets on the season this year. Damn. No receiving touchdowns.
That's like Julio territory, although at least Julio got a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, just
how is that even possible?
I have no idea. It's just absolutely insane. But like you said, George Pickens looks like he's going to be the real deal. I hate bringing him up because I'm still pissed that the Bears didn't take him last year.
Could have been him instead of Velus Jones.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, but
your boy,
add a couple pieces of that offensive line, get him some protection there. You've got obviously TJ Watt, just the man child on defense, and they're set. I mean, you've got Mike Tomlin there, proven winning coach, picked up his winning season that he needed to avoid the below 500.
Finishing off the year winning
but,
4 straight.
Yep.
Like just to barely get that. That's freaking awesome.
Yep. But you liked what you saw out of Kenny Pickett when he was at University at Pitt. I mean, he looked good. He just needed some time to develop. And I think you saw that throughout the course of this season. Yes, he still has a long way to go to be the next Ben Roethlisberger and be a franchise quarterback for 15 plus years, but he's taken a lot of good steps this season in the right direction. And I think if you're Pittsburgh, you got to be happy about that for sure.
Yeah. And I certainly don't think he has the ceiling of Big Ben. He doesn't have the size that Ben has, but he's mobile. He's got a nice arm. I mean, like I said, I don't think he's going to be a top 6 quarterback ever, but he's can get to a top 10 spot there, especially with guys like Brady and Rodgers who have both fallen off. Stafford's going to leave. Who the hell knows about Dak? I mean, it's like he's been kind of hovering around that number 10 spot his entire career and has never solidified himself to be within the top 10. So therefore, I say he's not, and I don't think he ever should have been. I don't think he ever will be. I mean, he doesn't have the ceiling of Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert. Like, I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks out there. Josh Allen. I don't even know how many I'm missing at this point, but fuck, Brock Purdy's been the best quarterback in the league for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Like, dude's undefeated, never lost. I'm not saying that Brock Purdy's going to be a stud or Pickett's going to be a stud, an absolute stud, but Pickett can still be a franchise guy.
I think the last one real quick, Joe, before we get into our playoff preview, who's quarterbacking the Raiders next year?
You there?
Yep.
Okay. Your Zoom froze.
Oh.
That was nice. Okay. I'll start in a couple. Give me a couple. I think you put in Tom Brady. I think you go after Brady. You reunite him and McDaniels. You give Brady the best weapon that he's had since Randy Moss. I guess if you don't include Gronk, but best wide receiver that he's had since Randy Moss. Josh Jacobs, he loves his tight ends. You get him Darren Waller, assuming Waller can stay healthy, which that's assuming a lot. They've got a stud left tackle. I mean, there's some more work that can be done on that offensive line, and the defense needs a lot of work. But Brady, Josh McDaniels reunion, I love it. And there were rumors before that Brady and Gronk were both talking, I guess, with Dana White about going to the Raiders back before he went to the Bucks. I don't know. That might have been Dana White just spewing BS, but
could be.
It probably is. But, those talks have been there. I don't know. I mean, do you see Brady moving back or, moving to the West Coast again? His kids are still on the East Coast, but Giselle, I think, is on the East Coast. So maybe get away, swim away.
No, it'll be interesting. And another name that was tied to is Jimmy G. He's got familiarity, obviously, with Josh McDaniels. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do because I don't think they're necessarily a quarterback away from. I mean, they're another team that needs quite a few pieces, I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do moving on from longtime quarterback Derek Carr.
Rodgers Devontae reunion.
Maybe.
Hey, I'm just saying. Vegas, they like to gamble.
Speaking of gambling, Joe, let's get into our playoff preview that we're going to provide you some picks against the spread. So going to start it off. We're just going to go in order here and kind of give you a little bit of a preview, not too in depth here, but Seahawks at 49ers, NFC West battle here. Got Geno Smith versus Brock Purdy.
Geno.
The quarterback battle everyone's looking forward to seeing. Niners are 9.5-point favorites at home in this one. And like you had mentioned, just on an absolute roll since Brock Purdy took over, Mr. Irrelevant. And Luckily, he's at home for this one. This would have been interesting, I think, if you've got Seattle, the 12th man in the playoffs, having to make your first playoff start, but get the nice home matchup at Levi Stadium. What do you see in this one?
I gotta trust Brock Purdy here, man. As insane as that is to say, like I said, he's been a top 3, top 4 quarterback, at least statistically, based on efficiency numbers and his ability to just distribute the ball extremely efficiently. I trust the guy here. He's played in a number of big games. He was a 4-year starter at Iowa State. You know, back in high school, he was the high school player of the year. So throughout the country, not in his state, throughout the country, national player of the year. So that makes me assume that he won multiple state championships at wherever the hell he went. So, you know, again, 4-year starter was looked at as was always, you know, in the spotlight. Yeah, he fell to that Mr. Irrelevant spot because he had a pretty shaky senior season. That whole Iowa State team was pretty shaky that last season. But I think I trust him enough here. And the Niners squad is so stacked. I mean, George Kittle, since Purdy came in, George Kittle's looks like he's gotten back to his old self where he's just looks like a man among boys out there. Deebo Samuel, healthy. That's a big key. I mean, Nick Bosa, still a monster. I trust him. I trust that that's the best defense in the league. Fred Warner, those defensive backs. I mean, that entire front seven for the Niners is just, it's so much. I love the Seahawks story. I love what Geno's done, passing Russell Wilson as the number 1 single season leader in Seahawks history for passing yards. I can't love that more. That's insane.
That is nuts.
But and led the league also in completion percentage this year. Who would have thought that with Geno Smith, who in the past has thrown more picks than touchdowns in his career. This year, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. In his previous entire career, he had thrown more picks than touchdowns. So it's like, I don't know if it's Carroll. I don't know if it's Geno. I don't know if like the world is just like, we're about to go into like, you know, some apocalyptic meltdown that like, I don't get it. I don't know where this came from, but I love the story. Kenneth Walker is different. I mean, he's up there. And if you're talking about a dynasty running back, there's not many out there that you'd rather. Yeah, I know, Josh. I know you do. There's not many out there that I'd rather have. He's fast. He's got burst. He's not used much in the passing game, but he's good enough on the ground that it doesn't even matter. I mean, you might be looking at a top 3 running back is if you're talking dynasty, if not 1 or 2. So, and especially with Breece Hall coming off an ACL. So, I mean, you got to love Kenneth Walker. Those receivers are nice. That Seattle defense looks really good. I trust the Niners to win this game, but I am going to take the Seahawks to cover this 9.5. Too many points. The Niners have beat them twice this year. I think they beat them a third time, but that's too many points in a playoff game when the Hawks really, I mean, that's too good of a story for them to just get blown out in week 1 of the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Niners to win, Seattle to cover.
I'm spot on with you on that one. I do think the 49ers win the game, but Seattle, it's going to be a close one. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. And we've seen the 49ers, their defense is really good, but they've been giving up some points lately. I mean, they had to win in overtime 2 weeks ago against the Raiders, gave up quite a bit of points there to the Raiders offense with Jared Stidham as the quarterback. So I don't know. 49ers are a team that I think eventually ends up coming out of the NFC to represent them in the Super Bowl this year, but they're going to have a tough test in the Seahawks, even though it's one of your 7 seeds, Gel, that you don't believe should be in the playoffs. I think the Seahawks show why the 7 seed, at least this year, you should let them in. So I do think the Seahawks make it a close.
Have you seen the 7 seed in the AFC?
We'll be getting there shortly. Woof.
Yeah. Woof is right.
Before we get into that game, next one up on the slate, Chargers at Jaguars. This is one of the ones I think I'm looking forward to. Chargers right now, 1-point favorite on the road in Jacksonville. I think my storyline I'm wondering is, we talked about him yesterday, Michelle, will Brandon Staley cost them a game? And I mean, it's going to happen. He's going to
I don't think it's a matter of will he cost them the game.
When.
I think it's a matter of how and when.
Yes, but I mean, the Chargers, I think right now are the more talented team on offense. Justin Herbert, though, has not looked like himself the last few weeks for whatever reason. And he just hasn't followed up that sophomore campaign this year with the numbers that you'd like to see. Yes, his wide receivers, Keenan Allen was banged up. Mike Williams was out for an extended period of time. But I mean, the bread and butter of this offense right now is Austin Eckler. And Austin Eckler has just been absolutely phenomenal right now. And the Jaguars kind of stifled Derrick Henry a little bit last week. He didn't have that great of a game. And I think the Jaguars defense shows up for this one. To me, it's going to be what Jags offense shows up. And their offense didn't look that great against Tennessee. They weren't moving the ball that well, but ultimately the Chargers have been giving up quite a bit on the ground. And I think that's a difference in this one. I think Travis Etienne has a solid game in this one. And I think Trevor Lawrence does enough with his legs as well that gives the Jags the win in this one. I'm taking the Jags.
Well, did it again. I think the Jags, even as dogs, I think they win this straight up. I didn't even do this on purpose. I wrote down, don't trust Staley twice. So I can't trust him. I think that after they lose this game, I think he's out. I don't see how you can keep him on. I mean, you're right. Herbert has not looked the same. I got to wonder if that rib injury that he suffered mid-season, I think that that's playing a pretty big factor here, because that was brutal. And yes, he came back in that same game and somehow pulled out some miraculous throws, but then he missed the following week. I think that's really affecting him. What's got me still a little iffy on the Jags. I mean, I know that they finished the season playing much better than the Titans, but it took the Titans to lose their final 7 games, and it took the Jags to win their final 5. So did the Jags just get hot at the right time? Yes, but also Tennessee fell apart at the wrong time. I mean, we haven't seen any consistency out of Jacksonville all season, but we never see any consistency out of the Chargers. Trevor Lawrence has taken another step. I love Trevor Lawrence here. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Doug Peterson needs to get some votes for Coach of the Year. I mean, the way that he turned that team around from the number 1 overall pick into a playoff team. Yes, it is. It's a division winner into a division winning team. That's badass. That's deserves some look at Coach of the Year. Rashawn Slater for the Chargers is still out. That Jags pass rush between Josh Allen and their first overall pick, Trayvon Walker, seems to have, that duo seems to have really kind of like solidified itself as one of the better pass rushing duos in the AFC. God, honestly, it might not even matter who was in this spot. I might still just be taking them because I cannot trust the Chargers, but I like Jacksonville for all the reasons that I just said. Plus, I can't trust Brandon Staley to not screw this up. He's going to be playing the long game again. And I don't get that guy. We don't know if Joey Bosa and Mike Williams are going to play because his dumbass didn't sit him in a non-consequential game when they've been injury riddled their entire seasons. Idiot.
Moving into our third game, the first one on the Sunday slate. This is that wonderful AFC 7th seed you were talking about, Joe. We got Dolphins at Bills, another divisional matchup. Third time these teams have been matched up this year. Bills obviously heavy home favorites in this one, 9-point favorites. What are you looking for in this one, Joe?
I'm looking for anybody other than Skylar Thompson at quarterback. I'm gonna look so hard for it because I can't watch another game of him at quarterback. That was so ugly to score 11 points against the Jets, who have nothing to play for, with their third string quarterback in, with Joe Flacco. Please retire, by the way, Flacco. Nobody wants you here anymore. But Miami can't start Tua. He's got 3 concussions on the year. I don't think you can do it again and risk ending his career. If he's medically cleared by the doctors, what do? Do you say, okay, he's cleared, you're in? I don't know what you do in that situation.
I don't think he should be going back in this season, but if he's medically cleared, darn well they're going to be starting him in a playoff.
It's football, man.
Yeah. I don't know.
And if Tua isn't cleared, Teddy was out. He missed last week with a broken pinky. Like, strap on, grow some balls, put a freaking brace on it. You already wear gloves when you throw anyways. Just get a bigger freaking glove to fit over the brace and let it rip, tater chip. Like, get out there. It's a freaking broken pinky. It's not like your busted ACL from back when you were a Viking. So get back out there, and not saying that that's going to help them win this game. They're not going to win this game. The Bills are too good. The Bills are maybe the best team in the AFC, but so it probably won't matter in the outcome of this game, but I can't watch Skylar Thompson again.
I'm assuming you have Bills -9.
I'm taking the Bills -9. Yes.
So my only notes I wrote down for this one is, who is Miami's quarterback? Doesn't matter. Bills -9. That is my pick as well.
Fair enough.
Next game up on Sunday, have another rematch from a couple weeks ago. Giants at Vikings. Vikings are -3 in this one, and I think this is going to be also one of the better games of the weekend. Vikings have been kind of struggling into the playoffs. Yes, they got a nice Week 18 win against the Bears, which the Bears clearly were playing for the number one pick.
Peterman out there.
Peterman out there. You had just a hodgepodge of Bears defenders, and Vikings still weren't moving the ball that great. They got off to a hot start and then just kind of cooled off. Yes, Kirk Cousins wasn't playing the second half, but the Giants almost went in and won a couple weeks back. They lost in a very close game, and Giants have been playing some decent ball. As much as they're going to have a decision what to do with Daniel Jones, he's been serviceable. He's been using his legs to score touchdowns, extend drives, which I think is going to be the difference in this one. I think the Giants defense is going to get a couple key stops down the stretch, and I like the Giants in this one. I think they're going to win outright. I think the Vikings are going to have another early playoff exit, and the Giants are going to be a surprise team that just doesn't intimidate you at all looking at them on paper, but they find ways to win.
We saw last week they were 14-point dogs against the Eagles because they didn't play any of their starters, and they lost 22-16. And the Eagles they were playing for the division. If they would have lost that game, they might have lost the division. Thankfully for them, the Cowboys pooped their pants, but against Washington, but they were playing for something. And a 22-16 final, that's a really nice fight that the Giants put on with all their backups in. The previous week destroyed the Colts. Who gives a shit about that? But Christmas Eve, like you said, at the Vikings, 3-point loss. Interesting that that's the same line as we go into, this weekend. I know the Vikings have been playing bad, but Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson. I think the Vikings squeak by here. I think that this is maybe a 21-20 win. I'm going to take the Giants with the spread at +3, but I'm going to take the Vikings to still win it outright. I really think it's going to be a 1-point game. It could come down to a missed field goal or a missed extra point or or the Vikings go for 2 at some point, and that's what, kind of seals the deal for him. But yeah, I mean, if it was 3.5, yeah, I'm going Vikings in the loss, Giants with the spread, or Vikings with the outright win, Giants with the spread.
Sounds good. All right, last of the AFC matchups this weekend, a rematch of Week 18. Will we have Lamar? We don't know at this point in time, but the Bengals have been rolling in this one. 7-point home favorites. What do you got in this one, Joe?
Who's at QB for the Ravens? I mean,
yeah,
we don't know. We don't know what the hell Lamar is doing. I don't know why there isn't some actual reporting going on here. Like, you'd think that Baltimore beat would be all over this and trying to figure out stuff. We're getting nothing. We're getting no reports out of Baltimore from the team, from the player, just from even, within the locker room. Like, hey, do you think Lamar's going to play? Hey, what's like, it's been radio silent, and I don't understand how, because if this was any other star quarterback, which Lamar is a star quarterback, he won an MVP unanimously, I feel like the media would, like, especially this local beat in Baltimore, would be all over it. We'd at least be hearing rumors. We're not even hearing that. I mean, the last thing that came out was Adam Schefter saying that it was expected for him to come back around Christmas or before Christmas, and he still isn't playing. He's showing up. He's on the sidelines. He's smiling, having a good time on the sidelines. Seems like he doesn't really miss the game that much. But shit, at -7, I don't think I care who shows up at quarterback. See, Cincinnati's just been too damn good. I think I've said this in past weeks, and I'm going to stick with it. I think Cincinnati's the best team in the AFC. I can't say for sure yet if they're my Super Bowl favorites, because you've got those 2 juggernauts in the NFC and also 2 more juggernauts on the AFC side. But I think Cincinnati's the best team in the NFL, or in the reverse. I think Cincinnati's the best team in the AFC. I got to go them -7.
Yep. Well, so far we're same picks, Joe.
This is so boring.
Yeah, it is. I thought we were going to have a little bit more different takes, but no, I mean, like you said, it doesn't matter to me who's that quarterback for Baltimore. Even if Lamar's back, he's going to be rusty as hell. He hasn't played in over a month, and I just don't see them having enough offensive pieces to get the job done here against the Cincinnati team that's been absolutely rolling. And Cincinnati's offense has looked really good. Baltimore's terrible against wide receivers and defending wide receivers. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd are going to have just absolute field day here, along with Joe Burrow. So I don't see this one being close at all, regardless of who is at quarterback for Baltimore. And even if Lamar plays in this one and they have an early exit, you talked about John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson's contract situation this offseason. I think there's going to be even more talk of what the heck happened this season with them.
I think that's when the tea is really going to be spilled, is at some point this offseason.
Yeah,
I mean, there's got to be stuff that's going to come out. I don't know how it hasn't already. Maybe the Baltimore organization is saying, like, just hold off until the offseason to some of these guys, and maybe there's going to be massive stories that come out, and it's going to be juicy as hell. But it's just blows my mind that there's been nothing that's come out so far.
Yep. Last matchup, Cowboys road favorites at Tampa Bay. Cowboys Bucks. Cowboys 2.5-point favorites in this one. Cowboys have really been struggling on defense lately. Their offense has looked okay, but haven't looked good. Bucks also struggled into the playoffs, so why not throw both of these struggling teams on Monday Night Football, the last game of the weekend? But we all have to watch this now. Yeah.
I
mean, both teams, like I said, have been struggling. I think I have to go with the experience in this one, and the Cowboys need to prove something to me before I'm comfortable picking them. They just never seem to do well in the playoffs the last couple of years. Dak just doesn't look like himself. I mean, this is going to be ugly, but I don't know. I just think Old Man Tom ends up finding a way to win this one. We saw their offense has looked good with him in the game the last 2 weeks. They were up at halftime last week. I know you were thrilled about that, Gel, but then they turned it over to the backups.
That's a winner, baby. That was a winner.
They turned it over to the backups and got blown out in the second half. But you saw Tampa when it mattered. They came back on Carolina, and I think Mike Evans is going to be a difference maker in this one. I think Mike Evans is going to have a big day in helping Tampa win the game, and I think it'll be close, but I think Tampa will win by a field goal. So I'm gonna take Tampa on this one.
Outright and with the points. All right. Well, we have our first discrepancy finally. One of us can go up one on the week. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I just think the upside for this Dallas, it's one of those teams that I do not trust. So I'm not like, if I were in a confidence pool and I had to rank 1 through 6, this would be my least confident pick by a mile, just because I don't trust, I can't trust the Cowboys. They've had weeks where they just look awesome. I mean, but at the beginning of December, only beating the Texans by 4. The next week, they lose in overtime to the Jags before the Jags got real hot. The following week, they come out and beat the Eagles by 6, but that was with Gardner Minshew in, not with Hurts. The following week, nice win against the Titans. And then this past weekend, get their asses handed to them by Washington. So the Commandos. So I don't trust them, but I think that their upside is enough. The Bucs have no upside. I mean, outside of Tom Brady, but he hasn't been sharp. I just think this Bucs team is so freaking limited, and it's an old team. You're getting to the end of the year. I think I'm going to take the Cowboys upside here, that I think that they have over, as much as I shouldn't do this. I think I'm going to have to do it. And I think the Cowboys upside is going to be just a bit too much. I can't trust that Bucs offense. Yes, they looked good last week in the first half, but that was against the Falcons. So sadly, I need to go Cowboys with zero confidence, but I do feel better about them than I do Tampa.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more upside there. It's just, they haven't been playing good football at the wrong time to be doing that. So that's just, I don't know, just kind of a gut feeling, but we'll find out. All right, Joe, first year of doing this, Drew Lock's playoff edition. So regular season.
Good thing we didn't have 3 hosts for this year.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl would have been a little tough.
A little tough, yes. Congratulations. Regular season title goes to Gel, won 573 to 542. So
30 points.
30 points.
Ow! Yep. And that's even with me having multiple weeks with players inactive or
or Drew Lock.
Or having Drew Lock, who
well, let's see if you do it again. So what we're going to do for the playoffs is we are going to do the same thing we did during the regular season. I'm going to flip a coin here shortly to see who gets first pick this week, and then next week we'll flip flop. But you take a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, whatever fantasy points they get, that is what you get. And if a team gets eliminated, obviously you can't use any of them. Well, you can if you want, but obviously that'll be 0 points. And once you use a player, you cannot use them again. Can't pick the same player as your opponent. So you kind of want to strategize, at least early on. Maybe I'm giving away a little bit here, Joe, but I'm trying to pick teams that I think are going to perform but might not advance past this week. So can at least use those guys, save some of the other guys. But got my handy dandy Connecticut State quarter here, Joe. You want tree your head?
Connecticut State quarter.
Tree your head.
I went tree last time. I'm going to stick with it.
All right, here we go. Ooh, it's a head.
Oh, have at it, kiddo.
I don't really have anybody that I like super want, but I'm going to lock in somebody that wasn't great last week, but has had a nice stretch down the last few weeks down the stretch, especially for those fantasy playoffs. I'm going to lock in Evan Ingram at tight end. I think he's going to have a nice matchup against Chargers and be a favorite target of Trevor Lawrence in this one. I think he'll have a decent game.
Yeah, Ingram is one of my tight ends that I had written down. So yeah, but I mean, previous to last week, he had just been absolutely on fire. So nothing would shock me if he just goes off again. I'm gonna get over to that running back position, and Vikings have been bad against the run. Saquon, baby. I think he got that week of rest last week. I'm surprised you didn't go Saquon. I thought he was the easy number one on the board. It's going to be interesting to see if they do advance. That obviously that kind of hurts me, and it gives you a massive leg up going into next week. But if they don't advance, I feel like I've got the best running back on the board right now. So I'll go Saquon.
Yep. No, that's a solid pick. I've got another running back I like too that I think will have a nice week too and has a decent matchup as well. But I'm gonna go with that wide receiver position. I'm gonna lock in Mike Evans. I think he has a big week this week. He's had to really struggled this season as far as touchdowns go. Came alive for those of you in week 17 championship games to the tune of 200 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. But I think he is going to be the difference maker against that Cowboys defense. And I think Tom's going to hook up with him a couple times in this one and have a nice day for Mike Evans.
Yeah. I mean, he finally seems like he kind of got it together after having to his, a poor season according to his standards. So, yeah, I guess ride the hot hand with him. I'm going to lock up your tight ends QB here, Mr. Trevor Lawrence, as I'll prevent the stack, but and I'll get T-Law in here. I like the prospects against him and that Chargers defense that might not have Joey Bosa because Brandon Staley is just, good God. He should be sued.
I did not have Trevor Lawrence written down, but my quarterback I'm going with this week, I am doubling up, Joe. I took him last time he played the Vikings, and I am going Daniel Jones for the win.
Oh, my goodness.
Again, has a nice matchup that I had said the last time, and might not get to use him again that I necessarily want to, but I'm going to get him out of the way.
He
had
a really nice day.
So. And I mean, 2 weeks ago when he played, he had 2 rushing touchdowns against the Colts. So he's been playing some decent ball. So I'm going to throw him in my lineup.
I'm going to get my stack settled in here. Christian Kirk he's been awesome as of late. He had a nearly 100-yard game this past week. Him and Trevor, I think T-Law has found his number one wideouts. It's established. Christian Kirk is the guy. I didn't even use him in the regular season. So I guess I'm rolling him over, but yeah, I just really like that combo of Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, and again against this Chargers defense that to me is just not trustworthy.
Running back position, I am going to lock in CMC Dynamite. I think he's got a really nice matchup against Seattle this week. Yes, Elijah Mitchell is back, but I think they're going to use CMC quite a bit in the playoffs, especially in the passing game, and I think he's got a big day in San Fran.
No Kenneth Walker this, I guess. I mean, I was thinking about it, but that's a ridiculous
I wanted
defense.
to, but yeah, that wouldn't be a good matchup.
I mean, it's just, CMC is going to be available, or you assume he's going to be available later on, but it is a juicy matchup against Seattle. So I get it. Last position for me to fill up is that tight end spot. And it's just too good of a matchup it's against Seattle, who's been awful against tight ends.
Yeah.
And Kittle has been just masterpiece. So George Kittle, tight end. I mean, Seattle's been amongst the worst teams against tight ends fantasy wise all season. With how hot he is right now, got to roll with it. Him and Purdy are just somehow have such awesome chemistry. I love it.
All right, let's see what happens here. Maybe you can go 2-0 in our Drew locks this year, Joe. Moving into our final segment, we have our golf preview. Sony Open, last stop in Hawaii. This one taking place on Maui, Honolulu, and at Wailea Country Club, par 70 and just over 7,000
Nice pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. I used to have there's a golf game. I think I brought this up actually last year during this tournament. There was a golf game for the N64, the first golf game I ever owned. It was the Wailea Open, was the or Wailea
Nice.
Country Club, I think was the name of the game. One of those, but yeah, so
Heck
got
yeah.
got
Right
that
on.
pronunciation down very well playing that as a
Sure
kid.
do.
Field in this one, obviously not as strong as the Century Tournament of Champions because those are all golfers that won last year on the PGA Tour. Still a solid group of guys, though.
True.
Going to go in alphabetical order here because that's the way it was listed on their app. Keegan Bradley, Harris English, Harry Higgs, Billy Horschel, Sungjae Im, Zach Johnson, Tom Kim, Matt Kuchar, Hideki Matsuyama, the defending champion, Adam Scott, Webb Simpson, Jordan Spieth, Gary Woodland. What are you got some betting odds for us, Joe?
Yeah, your top five, Tom Kim, who had a really good week last week. Sungjae Im also had a nice week last week. Jordan Spieth there at 3, Matsuyama at 4, who won it last year. And sneaking in there in the top 5, Brian Harmon.
Nice. The lefty.
Replacing Phil.
All right, it is time for our pick'em. Joe has the leg up. He's got a 6-stroke lead right now.
Could have been 9 if freaking Morikawa didn't blow it and 3 straight freaking bogeys on 14 through 17 or through 16 on Sunday. That's a joke.
Once you pick a golfer in this segment, you cannot use them again. So kind of strategizing based on tournaments and how guys have been playing. I am riding with the hot hand this week, somebody that did play in Century Tournament of Champions last week and played very well. And he has played well towards the end of last season. And one of the young guns on the tour, Mr. Tom Kim.
Okay. Woo. You had me nervous. Yeah, he's a favorite for a reason. I mean, you know, he's playing good golf and nothing like 2 first names out there to for a favorite. So I like it. I'm going to go a little bit further down on that betting list. Again, somebody who played really well in last week's tournament. I was texting you on this on, I believe it was Saturday night, a little bit of a late bloomer, 29-year-old, finally on the scene, JJ Spawn, plus 4,500 to win it all. And I think, he's been playing really good. I think I'm going to be able to get some nice, get some additional strokes onto that lead over Mr. Kim.
All right, we'll find out. Loved JJ Spawn's attire this last week too, with the untucked shirt. The announcers are having a field day with that.
I mean, he's got a little bit of
laid back Hawaii vibe,
a little bit of a gut, I guess, or not. I mean, not kind of dad bod. I don't blame him. Fun fact here: 17 of the past 24 winners of the Sony Open played the previous week at the Century Tournament of Champions. Both Kim and Spawn played. So, hey,
I like our chances.
Gives them an even better chance. Yes, sir.
Can we finally get our first win, Joe?
I thought I had it. Son of a bitch.
Well, that'll wrap up this episode. We'll be back with you next week. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Dead Arm Sports as well. Black and yellow logo. Click on that, subscribe, then click the bell. That way you know when our live episodes drop, or you can watch the replay of our show the next day when our recording comes out. Follow Gel at Das Gel on socials. I can be found at Das JPEG. Hit us up there with any questions, concerns, segment ideas, whatever you would like. We will hit you back up or talk about it on the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that review and you will get some swag. What are those platforms, Joe?
Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Pretty much anything that hosts a podcast, we're out on. Although I can't imagine most of our listeners are outside of that those top 4. Anchor as well. If you are an Anchor listener. Don't know anybody that does that either.
For all you boats out there, you can find us on Anchor.
Way to sync the episode. Take a screenshot of that written review, subscribe, rate, review. Take a screenshot of that written review. Send it to us on our socials. Get some free swag. YouTube, Dead Arm Sports. Sign up for the notifications there as well.
All right. Appreciate everyone listening. Should be a fun weekend. No college football on for the first time in a long time. Makes me sad, but we do have playoff.
Well, at least we had a good finale.
Yeah, such a great finale. We could went out with a bang, that's for sure. But hopefully NFL weekend does not disappoint. Should be a good one, and we will be back next week to break it down and preview the next slate of games. Then Jill, close her out.
Hopefully with my picks, I can finally spawn a winner.
Boo.
Ah.